how we all look at each other too. You know, we don't all live in the same
Yeah.
town. We're all in Oklahoma, but a lot of us live, an hour, or so away. So I mean, it's just great to have everyone around and people that you can rely on, and have help on cases if you need it.
Almost definitely.
Right.
It's kumbaya. You got a kumbaya. That's what I like to call it. Yeah, you're gonna have a miserable
Absolutely.
time in this field. If you don't kumbaya, you're gonna have a miserable time.
Yep.
That's right. That's cool. Yep.
You have any questions, Dustin?
No, I've just been listening to the show. You guys are doing great.
You got a nice smile up there. Keep
Being
looking.
quiet.
His smile is like giving me that like oh.
Yeah. Well, normally my cousin's on here, and he has all kinds of cool strobe lights. So I got jealous, so I went and got my Christmas lights out and threw them up.
Like I'm like, what are you waving back there or something like that? Jeez.
I know. I'm here all expecting him to be on, and he wasn't. And I was like, well, but I'm in a closet studio. I mean, I got the water heater right behind me.
That's cool.
So, what is it? I mean, do you take certain steps, after cases to? I mean, I know that some things can follow you back, and attach to you. I mean, if they want to. I mean, have you ever had that happen to you? I mean, have you ever had that actually happen to where you had to take steps to get rid of the problem for yourself?
The only time I really ever necessarily had an attachment was um, the aspect where I told you guys earlier about my ego. But I've had retaliation or pre-retaliation, or however you want to call it, before a case and after a case, with the true demonic cases that I've dealt with. Sometimes retaliation being bad. Sometimes me just being negative. I think when you're in a negative case and you're kind of the yin and the yang, but you're trying to take that balance away and trying to evoke more positivity, that negativity goes somewhere, and sometimes that trace of it goes with you. Sometimes I'm negative after a case. Sometimes I just don't want to be, don't want to talk to anybody. So I just need to, get back to my reality. But anytime that anything has necessarily happened after or before a case, usually I just cleanse my house and, kind of stand my ground in my own house. But luckily, since I've bought my own house, luckily, I did severe cleansing on it when I bought it. And then also, I and a lot of people laugh at me, but I didn't know when I bought it. I don't like to say I have any abilities, but everybody, of course, calls me out on that. But the thing is, though, is that I actually have a house guardian, and if you don't know what that is, research it. It's very interesting. But a house guardian I have, and it's very positive. So if anybody negative in my house comes, even me if I'm negative, don't stay in the house. I've seen it progressively work even before I knew what was in my house, before I even knew anything was in my house. And small things did happen, but usually most negative people, come to my house and stay for a few seconds. Be like, I don't want to, I gotta leave. So it's very helpful because
Wow, I need one of those.
because if I ever come home, and something didn't follow me, or if I'm in that mindset, there is kind of some detections, and some things certain do happen when there's detections of it. But usually I do everything in my power to stay strong, 100% mentality. And if I'm not 100% mentality or not feeling well, if I'm like very severely sick, I won't do a case. I always have to be in the right mindset. It's kind of like you put Queen on and you put We Are the Champions. It's kind of like that. So you can't be out of that mindset, and if you do, regardless of if you have that mindset or not, you'll still possibly get something, but the chances of it are much less. It's kind of like if you don't do stupid stuff with your body, the chances of you getting certain diseases or cancers won't happen. So if you make the attempts, that's sometimes good enough.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, How often? Well, I was going to say, how often is it that you're actually going on cases? I mean, you say they kind of come in slow for you, but I mean, even if you're just talking to someone on the phone or trying to counsel someone that way, how often do you have to do that?
Weekly basis. Lately, the past few months, I've been doing cases every weekend, pretty much.
Wow.
Or been talking to a client. You know, I'm working on a case right now, which is very extensive. It's been taking a lot of my time, but yeah, every week I have something, regardless if it's actual case, like physical case, or consultations over the phone or over email. So every week, and of course the down periods, usually every other week, sometimes once or twice a month. But I praise those days because there's a lot of thrill seekers out there that they want a case, they scratch for it like a crack fiend. But I'm not like that. If there's not a case coming towards me, then I know there's a family out there that's sleeping at night comfortably. So I hope not to see cases, but when I do, I do get excited, but I get also highly motivated to help that client through and throughout as best as I can, and as best as I can is the best I can do.
Yep.
What do you do to keep yourself in a positive, kind of a positive spiritual, in shape kind of thing?
Everybody laughs, but I say it. The one thing, regardless of how bad of the day it is, even if, let's say, if I have a case at the end of the week and it's Monday, one thing that I tell people that matters is if you smile. I always smile. I'm always as positive as I can be, and that's all that matters to me. If I'm not smiling, then I'm knowing I'm in a bad mood. Of course, that's kind of everybody knows that, but I smile a lot. I'm a very positive person. I don't speak no evil. I hear no evil. I'm that kind of person. If you have problems with people, you take to that person. You can, of course, talk to me and let your steam out about something. But my best answer will always be, it's not my problem. It was great talking to you. I hope that helps. You should go talk to that person or figure this issue out, because I don't try to let negative things bother me. I try to stay as positive as I can be. I go through my personal issues just like anybody, but how I handle them I think, gives me that spiritual protection. I don't pray and go to church every week like a lot of people do, but I also believe strongly what I believe in, so I don't need to be proved that I have those beliefs. So I just try to smile, and that's the best advice I can give to somebody, because if you're in a bad mood and if you smile, you're no longer in a bad mood.
That's great advice.
You can't smile and be mad and creepy like
Right. Cool. Yep.
What was your motivation behind starting your ministry?
Well, like I said, to get people together. I think the one problem I've seen is people not working together. Everybody would talk about it. Like I said, there was no action to it. I created that action. There's no excuse that why you can't work together anymore. It's there. It's here. And of course, there's a lot of people out there that, request for help, and they won't see anybody for weeks, months. And that's quite, of course, understandable. Everybody has personal lives, but as soon as we get a case, usually we're there within the first week, usually. Because to me, if you deal with a haunting longer period, and this is, of course, I'm not a doctor, but this is, of course, with anything, you deal with for something for so long without getting help, you just make the situation worse. If you have a torn ligament, you don't go get it checked out, it's going to get worse. So it's the same thing. If I feel like if you're dealing with a haunting and you deal with it a long period of time, it's usually harder to deal with somebody that's been with haunting for so long because it's a daily part of their life. I like to try to nip it on the butt as soon as possible because the less the time they deal with the haunting, the easier it is to deal with the client. It is easy to deal with the situation. You know, once it's evoked in their daily life and once it affects them, you know, I've seen a lot of people that have dealt with it for years and have like PTSD like qualities to them because it beats them up so mentally and physically that, you know, they're different. So, you know, the sooner you deal with it, the sooner it's easier to control the situation as best as you can.
So you live in Rhode Island, correct?
Yes, I'm glad somebody knows what Rhode Island is. Yes, I always go to the South and everybody says, "Oh, you're from Long Island." Yeah, actually, I am from Long Island originally. I like living on islands that aren't really islands. So you know,
road.
Rhode Island. Yep.
Yep.
So we've heard about vampire legends and stuff that there in Rhode Island. What do you think about that?
Well, I do believe in vampires, and you know, a lot of people laugh. I don't believe in the general idea of like a Bram Stoker or Vlad the Impaler vampire. Like people like to put that mythos and lore. You know, I know Keith, you're pretty much talking about because he's infatuated with Mercy Brown. He loves the culture of Rhode Island, but. Vampires have been around in folklore and lore for the human society for a very long time, thousands and thousands of years. I do believe vampires exist, but just not in that idea of what Hollywood interprets it as, or Bram Stoker does. You know, those are people that suck your energy, you know, use you, and those are vampires. But I don't believe in the actual aspect of a supernatural being that can only appear at night and burn during the day and have teeth and, you know, all that. I believe in the concept of it, and I believe there is people out there that, you know, kind of live on that reality of them being a vampire and using people and manipulating people. And but as a real vampire, you know, of course, as Keith would tell you, she wasn't a vampire. She didn't have vampirism. She had tuberculosis. So it's quite a big difference. But unless everybody that had tuberculosis was a demon or a vampire, then holy moly, we were screwed if that was the case.
Yeah.
So did you grow up in Rhode Island? I mean, you're born in Long Island, I guess.
I was born in Long Island, and I've lived in Rhode Island most of my life. So, yeah, it's an interesting state. You know, I think living in Rhode Island is really actually what kind of catapulted me more into this field, because you got to remember, you think of Rhode Island, you think of paranormal because you think of ghost hunters. You think of a lot of the origin of the United States. You know, you got to remember that Rhode Island was the second colony in the Union of the 13 colonies. So, you know, we have a lot of history. We have a lot of locations around here that influence the supernatural, you know?
Right.
Are there any of your favorite places around there to go just to investigate if you could?
Rhode Island, there's a lot of cool places out here, but like I said, one of my favorite locations is up in Massachusetts, in Gardner, Massachusetts. But there's definitely a lot of cool places around here. A lot of outside locations, a lot of interesting old graveyards that you can get permission to go to an investigation at, and you know, that's the cool thing about it. Just the history. We have a lot of old locations, you know. Of course, like you have H.P. Lovecraft that lived here, you know, of course, and you can, you know, certain aspects of him that are influenced in Rhode Island because of he was being raised here. So there's definitely a lot of lore and culture and folklore around here that makes it interesting.
Yeah, you're very lucky. There's all kinds of stuff that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from right there where you're at, you know.
Right.
Out here we have like the old plantation, you know, but that's really about what we got, you know.
Well, that's Skirvin Hotel in Oklahoma City.
Got a lot of Native American stuff.
Yeah, we don't have very much here in Oklahoma besides basically residential.
And there's nothing wrong with residential. I actually, you know, I've always preferred residential. I think that I think residential cases are different every time. I think the